re-gift helicopter sweep from the close guard. First off, what is the re-gift? The re-gift is just a way for me to control Chaz from the close guard. So let's just say that Chaz is working from my close guard. Just like this. Now, what he has is his arm across my chest. And then I'm going to bring my arm up and then over. See how my elbow hooks the back of his neck, and then I'm able to grab onto his wrist just like this. There's many different attacks that I can do, and it's a great way for me to control Chaz. So how do I get there? I want to try and get there typically from the control of the biceps, just like this. This is a very conventional control for Chaz. Do you see how it stops him from allowing me to grab onto his neck? All right? Now, from here, it's actually, I can dissolve this as well in the sense that I'm just going to bring my hand underneath his elbow. I'm going to try and pummel up here to the top, grab the top of his head. I can do the exact same thing on this side. But of course, Chaz can counter that as well in the sense that as I swim under, he swims under. He controls my bicep again. I swim under, he swims under. So this is just called bicep pummeling. Here, you see how he's just trying to check me just like this. This can be very frustrating. This can be very frustrating as I try to grab his neck. Here he just pushes me down, just like this. So now I need an answer. The answer that I like to use is what I call the hamburger. One arm goes over top, as the other arm goes underneath. Here it's called the hamburger because you see I'm basically sandwiching his two hands with my forearms. When I go over top, it's relatively easy for me to do. Just bring my arm over top. He thinks that I'm going for this arm. He thinks I'm going for this arm. And then this arm comes underneath. This is the arm that's actually doing the movement. I'm going here. What I can do is I can grab on to his cuff, or I can grab onto his wrist. Here, both of which are good. So once again, see I go over top, close the hamburger because I'm sandwiching his hands with my forearms. I'm just going to grab. As I grab, you see I pull and then extend to grab the top of his head. His arm is now across my body. Pull to the top of his head, then the other hand comes in to pull on the top of his head, thus breaking down his posture. Once I have his posture broken, you see how this hand here, the hand that's closest to the shoulder that I have controlled, I'm going to keep constant pressure through my hand, from my wrist onto my elbow, and then when I reach over, I'm going to grab onto his wrist. I'm going to pull this tight. See how my elbow turns and it goes into my belly button. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my foot onto this hip, just like this. Here, I'm going to push with this foot as this heel comes up and over. I'm going to think about trying to put my heel onto this knee, so I pick up his hip a little bit, just like this. Why is that important? Because it allows me to scoop his knee. If he stays here heavy onto his knee, it's really difficult for me to get my hand underneath. Even if I really wrench here on the control onto his arm, it's really difficult to scoop his knee. But I'm going to pick up his hip a little bit, putting my foot onto his hip. This heel tries and kicks and attempting to touch my heel to this knee, picking up his hip, scooping, just like this. See how my body is perpendicular to Chaz now? I'm just going to go and sweep just like this so I can get top mount. So from the top, thanks Chaz here, he's got control of my biceps. Can't get it. Can't get the top of his head. He's always pushing me down. I'm going to do the hamburger. One hand goes over top, and it's a bait. He thinks that I'm going for this hand. Really, it's the hand that goes underneath that's really doing all the work. I can grab onto his cuff. I can grab onto his wrist. As I pull, at the exact same time, go for the top of his head. You see how it's one motion. As I reach here and pull this across, his head reaches for the top of his head. Both hands now go to the top of his head and pull it down. This hand here is always going to maintain pressure. See how from my hand to my wrist to my elbow, I control onto his wrist. You're pulling it tight so my elbow is to my belly button. Strong control. Here, I'm going to put my foot onto his hip. From here, you see how I kick with this knife, thus picking up his hip, and I'm able to scoop his knee with my elbow. Now, I'm going to bring his head to the floor. Do you see how my spine is perpendicular to Chaz's spine? Really important. And then, I'm in mount. Chaz is going to take mount. So pretend that Chaz just swept me over. When I'm in top mount, I always want my hands up here like I'm doing a choke, like I'm choking myself. This is what I want to do in order to stay safe. From here, you see how I go to my side, like so. And see how Chaz will typically be attacking my neck or trying to get to my arms, and this is very typical. I'm going to do an elbow knee escape. From here, you see how I'm on my side. The foot that's to the floor is straight. Here, the foot that's closest to the sky here goes on the mat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my hip out. I'm going to bring my hip back as I extend my leg straight. See how my leg goes into his foot? It's like this. Here it is. My hip is going to go into his knee. So I'm shrimping, and it allows me to go and get my butterfly guard hook again. So here, let's do it from a different angle. So let's just turn so that our hips are closer to the mat, Chaz. You have mount entirely, pal? Good. So I'm on my side, just like this. Here, you see I'm shrimping, right? I'm putting my hip into his knee, and I'm able to put my shin underneath his shin. You see how from here, one foot, it goes into the mat as I'm picking up his shin with one butterfly guard hook. I call this the half butterfly guard. Now, what a lot of people will do is they'll just drop here into half guard, but you see he's halfway to my back. This is problematic, right? What I want to do is I want to push Chaz away here. Sometimes if I'm lucky, I'll get the sweep, but that's actually very unlikely. Most times here, he'll stay up, but it allows me to create space, and then drops me. Then I drop him back into my close guard, all right? From here, you see how he's going to maintain his posture and run away? See how he's controlling my biceps? I'm trying to pummel here. Man, I can't get anything, so I'm going to go and do the hamburger. One arm goes over top, as the other hand comes underneath. I grab onto his sleeve, or I grab onto his wrist. It's irrelevant. Say I grab onto the sleeve this time, pull it directly across. At the exact same time, I'm going to go for the top of his head, not the neck. If he brings his eyes up to the sky, go ahead, Chaz. Here, his posture is still strong. Top of his head is what I want. Pulling it down, both hands over top. Here, just like this. Keep a continuous pressure on the back of his neck from my wrist to my elbow. I grab onto his wrist. See, I'm using my thumb as I control. Here, keeping my elbow tight, wrenching it in, putting my elbow to my belly button, then I'm putting my foot on the hip, bringing my heel to my knee, kicking him up, and thus able to go and control his knee. Let's just turn a little bit for the camera, please, Chaz. Here, so going for the re-gift once again, controlling like this. Here, so I kick him up. I don't want to just control with my hand. What I want to do is I want to put his knee on my elbow. You see how I'm trying to put his knee to my ear? That is easy for me to sweep Chaz. Now, I'm in mount. I let his hand go so he can work his escape. So right away, he's going to turn to his side a little bit. Note how he shrimps away. Do you see how he's able to go and extend here? And straighten my knee out a little bit. And then you see how he puts one butterfly guard hook. He's going to pick me up with that hook. Here, just like this, he's trying to sweep me, but he's able to go and replace his guard simply by being able to strip out at the exact same time. Right away, I check his bicep. I'm keeping my eyes to the sky to have strong posture. From here, he does the hamburger. He brings one arm over top, the other hand underneath. Good. Scoops my arm across right away. Control the top of my head. Here. Controls my hand, nice and tight to his belly button. From here, puts his foot on the hip, scoops my knee, scoops me over for the sweep. Now, note how I shrimp out. Here, scoop, just like this. I pick Chaz up with my half butterfly guard hook. Push him away, here, just like this, so that I can replace my guard. Here. From here, right away, maintains his strong posture. Here, keep it up, Chaz, as I pummel. Here, maybe I'll do this a little bit. Can't get the top of his neck. Control, just like this. Pull this across, control his wrist, just like this. Sweep him over, just like this. Here, for a mount, here. Let's go over here, pal. Just like this. And you see how one more time, so on the side, here. Picks me up, like he's trying to sweep me. Here, right away. Here, I find his biceps. Really important to go and build that reaction. That's beautiful. So we have a nice fluid drill to work. A fantastic control from the close guard. The re-gift, I call it, and to a very simple, very basic sweep, the helicopter sweep, and working a very basic escape from bottom out, the elbow, knee escape. Fantastic drill to do to replicate these motions in a dynamic, realistic fashion.